Hello and welcome back to Inside the Contract. We are still on season 3. This is episode number 2. In this episode, we take a close look at one of the most misunderstood structures in the FIDIC dispute resolution system, the DAAB, DAAB, the dispute avoidance / adjudication board. Is it truly an independent, balanced panel, or does the modern mega project environment, especially here in the Middle East and emerging markets, create the perception of employer influence? Today, we cut through the theory and look at what actually happens. What is DAAB, DAAB? Under FIDIC 2017 second editions, every contract is designed to operate with a standing DAAB, not optional or ad hoc unless the parties intentionally amend the contract. Okay? By default, the DAAB must be appointed at the beginning of the contract and remain in place throughout the project. But unfortunately, this is not always the case. The DAAB shall consist of one sole member or 3 members, as stated in the contract data. If the contract data is silent, the default under FIDIC 2017 is a 3-member board. The purpose, the dual role. FIDIC 2017 strengthened the DAAB's function as follows. 1. Dispute avoidance, which consists of regular site visits, early identification of issues, facilitating settlement before disputes crystallize. Second function is the adjudication, where they issue binding but not final decisions. Decisions must be complied with immediately unless and until revised by settlement or arbitration. The intention is clear. Resolve disputes early, fairly, and quickly before they become multi-million-dollar battles. Okay? So let's look at the ideal versus the real-world scenarios. The theoretical ideal is that FIDIC imagines a DAAB that is jointly appointed by both parties, impartial and independent, experienced, credible, and balanced, proactive in preventing disputes, and respected by both sides. In short, a neutral referee sitting above the contract politics. However, the reality on many mega projects often tell a different story. These are recurring concerns reported by contractors on some projects. And again, I have to emphasize that this is not a claim that all employers or DAAB members behave this way, but these are some of the reported patterns. That is, the employer or PMC dominates the DAAB selection process. Contractor participation is limited or symbolic. DAAB members hesitate to issue strong findings against the employer. Site visits are infrequent due to cost pressure, and DAAB decisions on contentious issues are conservative to avoid confrontation. And above all, the perception of employer influence is stronger than the perception of neutrality. This perception, right or wrong, undermines the very purpose of the DAAB, if appointed, of course, in the first place. Even with good members, the systemic weaknesses can tilt the structure as follows. 1. Standing DAAB not actually activated. Some employers appoint members but never allow site visit, regular reviews, early warnings, or real engagement. The DAAB becomes decorative rather than functional. And actually, I have heard this, case from several colleagues, unfortunately. 2. Lack of a standard enforceable selection procedure. FIDIC provides an appointment framework, but in practice, the shortlisting and negotiation process can still be influenced by commercial leverage and procurement structures. This may allow informal influence, PMC-driven shortlisting, employer-heavy negotiation power, The contractor often joins the selection process after the key decisions were already made. Number 3, repeat appointments can create unconscious bias. A DAAB member who repeatedly works with the same employer, the same PMC, the same government entity, may subconsciously align their tone even if they intend to be fair. Okay? 4, cost pressure undermines the standing purpose. Standing DAABs are supposed to be active, but when employers push to minimize, first, like site visits, progress reviews, workshops, DAAB becomes reactive, only appearing when dispute erupts. This destroys the avoidance purpose entirely. Okay? So what are some of the procedural challenges? Mostly delayed decisions. DAAB decisions should be fast, but in practice, parties delay submissions, DAAB members extend schedules, and complex disputes drag on, weakening the credibility of the whole mechanism. Okay? So what are the contractor concerns regarding this? Across regions, contractors consistently list the same concerns. 1, the perception of employer alignment. Even when fees are contractually often shared, like 50-50, the contractor may feel that the employer controls practical aspects of payment. The employer initiated the selection. PMC recommendation strongly influences DAAB decisions. 2, DAAB decisions sometimes lean safe. Members may avoid criticizing the engineer, challenging employer decisions of EOTs, for example, supporting large compensation claims, not out of bias, but out of desire to appear balanced. 3, employer non-compliance. Although FIDIC requires immediate compliance with DAAB decisions, in practice, some employers delay payment, refuse implementation, challenge enforceability, and force the contractor into arbitration. So a decision that is ignored is not a dispute resolution tool. It is a piece of paper. Okay? 4, we have the confidentiality, issues where, confidentiality prevents scrutiny. So DAAB's decisions usually confidential, okay, not publicly scrutinized. And that's also a concern for the contractor where the decisions cannot be up for discussion. Okay? So further, again, as I mentioned, there are the non-compliance issues. Okay, as I said, DAAB decisions must be followed immediately, but some employers delay or refuse compliance, which in a sense, again, force the contractor into arbitration, or the contractor is forced into arbitration by lack of compliance from the employer. To restore credibility, several reforms are essential. 1, enforce through joint appointment. Both parties should provide short lists, interview candidates, examine conflicts of interest, agree, transparently. No unilateral recommended panel. Okay, that's the first step. 2, limit repeat appointments. DAAB members should disclose 1, past engagements with the employer, work done for PMC, any conflict of interest, ongoing consulting relationships with the employer or the PMC. And employers should limit habitual reuse of the same adjudicators. 2, or number 3 rather, strengthen independence standards, which is modeled after international arbitration. 1, no prior involvement in the project, no current advisory role to either party, no recent employment/consultancy with the employer or PMC. 4, mandatory conflict declarations. Okay, that improves the credibility issue. 4, mandatory transparency in reports. Site visit notes, recommendations, and early warning findings should be visible to both parties at the same time. Okay, Transparency means trust. Okay, in order to restore the avoidance culture, a DAAB that only acts when a dispute is formally declared has already failed. Parties must allow early warning conferences, informal issue reviews, site walkdowns, guidance before issues escalate. Okay, so as a best practice advice for contractors, the contractors can take several strategic steps as follows. First, document early and consistently. Maintain a clear record before the dispute matures. Notices, correspondence, program updates, cost impact. This helps the DAAB understand the context. 2. Use the DAAB proactively. Request avoidance meetings, joint workshops, informal clarification session before dispute becomes formal. 3. Insist on neutral members at contract signing. This is critical. Once the contract is awarded, the employer typically has more leverage. During tender or negotiations, the contractor has bargaining power to influence DAAB composition. Okay? Number 4, challenge procedural issues formally. If a DAAB member appears conflicted or aligned, raise the concern in writing, request clarification, document the doubt. This becomes vital later in arbitration. Number 5, maintain professional, non-adversarial engagement. A DAAB responds better to clear logic, structured submissions, respectful tone, and consistency than to emotional claims and aggressive posturing. Okay, so let's look at some commonly observed patterns regarding the DAAB appointments and dealings. 3 failure patterns appear repeatedly in real projects. 1. DAAB appointed late. By the time the DAAB is formed, disputes have already escalated. This transforms a preventive body into a firefighting team. Pattern number 2. PMC-dominated communication. If the PMC becomes the DAAB's primary information channel, neutrality is already compromised. 3. Employer non-compliance. Even strong DAAB decisions become meaningless if the employer blocks implementation. The contractor is forced into lengthy arbitration, defeating the purpose of rapid adjudication. Okay? So to close, the DAAB is one of the FIDIC 2017's most powerful tools, in my opinion, of course, but only when implemented as intended. Standing, active, neutral, transparent, respected. If these elements are missing, the DAAB risks sliding from independent to perceived employer aligned, threatening the entire dispute resolution cycle. By this, we come to the conclusion of episode 2. In the next episode, we shift to a question that keeps both contractors and engineers up at night. Is the engineer truly neutral as the contract requires, or has modern project delivery turned the engineer into an extension of the employer's commercial strategy? Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.